What's happening, everybody? Welcome back. This is Forgo, and today I'm going to give you an updated version of the PVE tier list, especially because of the arrival of BS Quizlet and BS Geese, and how it's really shaking up the meta, and really kind of how it's moved around some other characters. So let's jump into this. So this is the PVE tier list that I created. Now, the last time that you all saw this, some of these colors weren't in here. You can see here that this aqua color is triple S tier. That's the highest tier there is. Double S tier with this regular blue, and then dark blue is S tier, and then you have A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier, D being actually the lowest. Now I'm not going to run through every single one of these characters. I've talked about the reasons why I put the characters in where they belong. Know that I do rank guild raid as the highest or the most important game mode in the game, and then it would be Immortal Dungeons, RHD, and so on and so on and so on. But guild raid is the most rewarding game mode in the game, so I put a lot of stock into that when it comes to ranking these characters. And in the red team here, there has been one change. Geese 14 has actually moved up to SS tier, and the reason being really is just because of that 3 PG. Now keep in mind, when it comes to these tier lists, it really depends on if you have all these characters or not. I pretty much have all of these characters, so I just rank them comparing them to each other. But for some of you out there, some of these characters, they might be SS tier because maybe you don't have some other character that is SS tier or triple S tier. So keep that in mind whenever you're judging these tier lists. But Geese here, because of the 3 PG, because he has the 50% PG rate in his core, he is absolutely insane for the Immortal Dungeons now. And also because of the 3 PG, he's actually going to be really good against the Elemental Events. He's really going to help you get those rubies if you have this 3 PG for this character, especially when you can use your red characters. And because he has that 13-second cooldown for his super armor, and you can actually bring in a character that does offer super armor, you can actually build up his PG fast enough to do that 3 PG, and it's such a long animation that I imagine he's going to be insane. So I actually put him up a notch. I don't think he's better than Karate or really Kyo, to be honest, or Shane or Rachel, but I do think he has moved up, and I do think he belongs in SS tier. But all of these things are subject to change. Now, in the green category, of course, BS Geese ended up moving all the way to the top. He is the best, and when it comes to guild raid and Immortal Dungeons, Geese is just top notch. That long 3 PG, the 30% PG rate, being able to reset his first and third skill, and the fact that the highest guild raid number that I've seen so far has been over 1 billion. You heard me right, guys, 1 billion. And on that team, and that was on Lunatic, and that was BS Grizzled, BS Geese, and BS Rugal. So because those guys were on the strongest team ever in guild raid, that just is almost going to automatically put them on the top. But you'll find that they're going to be extremely useful in a lot of other game modes as well. And I decided to go ahead and put BS Orochi in SS tier. Now, I really was debating on putting him in SSS tier, triple S tier, or double S tier. I wasn't really sure where to put him, to be perfectly honest. But here's the thing about BS Orochi. His 3 PG can get interrupted. Sometimes it does miss whenever in the Immortal Dungeons, but it is a long animation. He's one of those characters, and he doesn't have any dot effects. He's one of those characters that he's borderline triple S tier. He's so close that it's not even funny, especially because of his PG rate leadership for all boss fighters. But I just don't think he's quite there. I mean, Maisie here is God tier. She has dot damage. She is God tier, guys. This girl is crazy. Her 3 PG can't get interrupted. She has double attack stats. BS Geese doesn't get interrupted on his 3 PG. He has a lot of good damage. He's got a great leadership for all attack fighters. I mean, they're just a little bit better. You know, he's got double dot, shock, and darkness. I just think he's just better, in all honesty. And I also made a couple other little adjustments down here in the bottom. And I actually moved Elizabeth and Meliodas around. I actually put Meliodas down here, and I put him in the S tier. He's a great character, but I really think Immortal Victor and maybe Spider Robot's where he's going to shine. Elizabeth is actually above him because you don't need a green attack team for RHD. And this Elizabeth is actually above those two because she has Starlight. You can actually use this character in guild raid, and she's actually quite good for it. Yeah, she's not as good as Athena. She's not as good as King. right? She's not as good as Chrysalid, but she's still really damn good. And you do need a green defensive team. The only reason she's in triple S tier, and the only reason she's really above these two characters, is because of that. Because she has the Starlight, and she is a defensive character like Elizabeth, so I do give her a little bit of extra stock. Then we go over into the yellow tier, and I don't think it's really any surprise at all that BS Chrysalid would be triple S tier. The guy is a god. You know, the 60% increase to boss fighters leadership, the double dot with the darkness and the starlight, so you can use them on lunatic and expert and guild raid. This guy is absolutely insane, resetting his first skill. He's just a monster of a character, does insane damage. You can cancel his skills super fast. His 5PG doesn't get interrupted if you use it in guild raid. It can also stall the timer for quite some time. Just an all-around monster of a character. Freaking nutso, my friends. And King here, honestly, King, I really go back and forth on keeping him, putting him in SS tier or keeping him at triple S tier. I really do think King, because of his leadership, the 20% PG rate, leadership for yellow fighters, the fact that he has dot explosion, the fact that he has starlight, he's useful in guild raid. But his 3PG can get interrupted, but man, it is a long animation. It can miss, but it's a long animation. It really helps in the Immortal Dungeons. He really is godly. So I tend to think this is where he belongs. And then I did also make a couple other little changes. I actually moved Pretty Zero down a few notches. She was up here, but I did decide to move her down here because honestly, she doesn't prove to be that useful anymore. I moved her down to S rank because she just isn't that useful. You know, she's really dropped in the meta thanks to all these new characters coming into the game. I mean, Xion has a better leadership. He has dot explosion. It's actually freaking amazing for Immortal Most. And I would argue better than her. She has that long 5PG. You got to build up to the 5PG. She doesn't have a 3PG. Xion does. He has a long 3PG animation. Mion here actually has dot burn. You can actually use her in hard mode in guild raid. The girl can actually put in quite a bit of work. Plus she has super armor and immunity. She has a lot of good survivability when you're using her in the Immortal Dungeons. I just think these characters are actually better overall than Pretty Z. Pretty Zero's got more damage than these two, but their usefulness and utility is just a whole lot better. And Iori, I actually moved him up a notch because ever since he got the 3PG, it's actually made him a whole lot better in the Immortal Dungeons, as you all saw in the previous video. He really is godly, and you can still use him in the guild raid for the 60% increase to attack type fighter leadership. And his 5PG doesn't get interrupted. If you use this guy, if you can play this guy well and throw in the right striker, he actually is pretty godly. I don't think he belongs in triple S tier. He doesn't have any dot damage. He lacks survivability, but he is very damn strong and a very useful character. I might move him around later, but I think that's where he belongs. And then we go into the purple. And yeah, SS Athena, even though BS Chrysalid has pretty much replaced Athena and really replaced Mai too, because we used Mai really mainly for her leadership, a lot of us, I still think that Mai and Athena belong in SS tier or triple S tier. I mean, for the players that don't have BS Chrysalid, they don't have BS Geese, BS Rugal, Maisie and Athena are going to be freaking the monsters when it comes to guild raid lunatic. They're just insanely strong, great freaking characters. And then Eileen, I went ahead and put her at triple S tier. I was contemplating on whether or not to do it, but you know what? Eileen is just amazing. If you can play her correctly, you can do her 3PG animation, then you can do her default, and you can do this in multiple different game modes. You can do it in Spider Robot, you can do it in Guild Raid. She just does insane freaking damage. She has a lot of utility. You do need a purple attack team for RHD, which is also amazing. And then I also moved up 97 Orochi. He was down here. I went ahead and moved him up because, man, 97 Orochi is actually insane. He's actually a wonderful character because, one, you can use BS Orochi's 3PG, but if you don't have it, you can use the 3PG from the Epic Quest for 97 Orochi, and it's a long animation. It's a terrific animation, and it's really going to stall the timer. I actually moved up Kula as well. I just think Kula and Orochi are just better characters for the game modes than the two 7 Deadly Sins characters, but you notice they are at double S tier because I do think they're very useful, very strong, especially Bond. You actually can use him in RHD, and it'll be a lot easier to get memories for him because he is a collaboration character. It's just Elizabeth has 30% PG rate. I actually think she's better for the Immortal Dungeons, but maybe Bond actually has more utility. And then we come over to the blue. And blue is so funny, right? Months ago, the blue was the weakest. Now I feel like they're becoming the strongest. They're just nuts. If you notice, I got 3 triple S tier characters here. None of these other colors have that. And I mean, BS Rugal, again, just insanely strong, double attack, can reset his hyper armor skill, can remove buffs from his 3rd skill, which doesn't matter in PvE, but it's really nice for PvP, and actually really good for in-game content when you're playing Infinite Battle, when you're playing League Match. Removing buffs is actually very powerful. He's actually done it to me when I fought him and whooped my butt. Then Delin, I mean, Delin has been replaced by BS Chrysalid, right? But God, he's just still freaking crazy strong if you have this guy. And I haven't even mentioned Time Attack. Delin is freaking nuts for Time Attack. He's absolutely insane. And he has long animations on his default and his 3PG. Plus he has dot damage on his default. He's just a godly freaking character. And Merlin is pretty much the same thing. I think Merlin probably belongs above Delin's. I might actually move her above Delin's because Merlin actually has a great leadership, but it's only for the 7 deadly sins characters. That's kind of the thing about her leadership. It's only applicable to them, and it's very good, and she has multiple dot damage. She has the chill damage, but she is just insane. Builds her 3PG up super fast, and both her default and her 3PG are super long animations. And when it comes to Guild Raid, all these characters in the triple S tier, they would all be super well in the Guild Raid. If you don't have the boys, which are BS Chrysalid and Geese and Rugal, then Maisie, Athena, and Eileen are the top dogs. If you don't have Eileen, then it would be Merlin on that team. They just would be the top dogs for Guild Raid. So that concludes some of the changes to the characters in the tier list. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree, what you think about those rankings and where you would rank certain characters. And remember, this is just my opinion, guys. It's just my opinion of where I think these characters belong. And again, maybe you don't have certain characters, and if you don't have those certain characters, then other characters are going to shine a lot more for you, and maybe they would be triple S then, or have a higher ranking. So let me know how you're doing in the game. Let me know what characters you've gotten, what cards you've gotten, and I stream on Twitch at 9 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. The link will be in the description below, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Y'all take care and have a good one.